So now in the last sessions, just we covered about class level modifiers and the member modifiers like public, private, protected, default. These are things we covered already, right? Now the next cinema, okay, final variables. Have you observed in the last class we covered final class, final method, final variables. There's a big cinema will be there on the final variables. Almost around 1.5 hours I will spend only on final variables. Keep supporting final variables. Final variables. Final variables. Variables. Do you know all variables are divided into 3 types? I hope maybe in the language fundamentals I may cover. Instance variable, static variables, local variables. Like all variables are divided into 3 categories. Final I mean instance variable, static variable, local variable. So if instance variable declared at the final, what will happen? If the local variable declared at the final, or if static variable declared at the final, what will happen? This part we have to discuss. Under final variables, first part, keep supporting final instance variables. Final instance variables. Final instance variables. Final instance variables. Instance variables. Final instance variables. Okay. Like now observe the point well. Sir, what is instance variable first? You people should have clarity. Maybe I covered in the language fundamentals, but still let me repeat. What is instance variable? So under then if the instance variable declared at the final, what will happen? Okay, first observe. Sir, I am taking one class student. Listen this one. Class student I am taking. For every student, compulsory name must be required. For every student, compulsory name must be required. Roll number must be required. Name and roll number must be required. So now I created first student. Sir, I created first student. Name some Durga. Roll number some 101. Sir, first student name Durga. Roll number 101. Second student name some Ravi. Roll number some 102. Dot. Last student is nothing but S600. Name is some Shiva. Roll number some 700, like I am taking. If you observe, the value of name and roll number is varied from object to object. You are getting? Sir, here name and roll number Durga 101, but here name and roll number Ravi 102, their name and roll number Shiva 700, right? If the value of a variable is varied from object to object, such type of variables are called instance variables, right? Or object level variables. For every object, so here separate copies are there. That's why these variables are also known as object level variables, right? Are you able to understand? If the value of a variable is varied from object to object, such type of variables are called what? Instance variables, right? Are you able to understand what is instance variable? If the value of a variable varied from object to object, such type of variables are called instance variables, right? Okay, this is. Sir, how many copies of instance variables will be created? For every object, a separate copy by default will be created, right? Sir, 600 students are there. How many roll numbers are there? 600 roll number. How many names are there? 600 names. For every object, a separate copy of instance variables will be created. Are you able to understand? So first you people should be aware what is instance variable, how many copies of instance variables will be created. Clear for all of it? Add. If the value of a variable, is varied from, if the value of a variable is varied from object to object, if the value of a variable is varied from object to object, value of a variable is varied from object to object, such type of variables are called instance variables. Such type of variables are called instance variables. instance variables. Variables are called instance variables. Okay, like second one, second point. For every object, for every object, for every object, for every object, a separate copy of instance variables. For every object, a separate copy of instance variables. For every object, a separate copy of instance variables. Instance variables will be created. For every object, a separate copy of instance variables will be created. Will be created. That's all. Are you able to understand? Sir, for every object, a separate copy of instance variable will be created, right? Sir, what is instance variable? Basic idea I hope you got. Sir, if the instance variable declared as final, what will happen? That is our major concentration. So discussion of instance variables is not our discussion now, because this thing we have to perform in language fundamentals concept. Now, sir, here what is instance variable? How many copies of instance variables got created, right? Now the third point, just observe this one. Sir, I am taking class test, analysis class test. Sir, can you tell, is it instance variable or not? Array, instance variable or not? Because we declared within the class directly. Okay, instance variable, right? Now public static void main string array args. Public static void main string array args. Tester t is equal to new tester system dot out dot println t dot x. Regarding SOP of t dot x. Now, do you know what is the output by default we are going to get is, so 0. Okay. For instance variable, it is not required to perform initialization explicitly. JVM by default will provide what? Default values, right? Okay, this is, sir, I didn't assign anything, but still I am getting 0 as the output because JVM provided what? Default value, right? Okay, at third point. For instance variables, we are not required to perform. For instance variables, we are not required to perform. Initialization explicitly. We are not required to perform initialization explicitly. JVM will always provide default values. JVM will always provide default values. JVM will always provide default values. Okay, take this example. Take this example. Class test. Next, int x public static void main string array args. Next, tester t is equal to new test SOP of t dot x. Tester t is equal to x SOP of t dot x. Do you know what is the value by default we are going to get? 0. T dot x, its value is 0. Are you able to understand, right? Okay. So this is, sir, here there is one small twist is there. Observe this one. For the instance variable, JVM will always provide what? Default values, right? Now I am taking here, just take a bit special care. Sir, I have one class test. If the instance variable declared as a final, sir, I am declaring one instance variable as a final. Okay. So then JVM won't provide any default values. Are you getting? If the instance variable declared as the final, JVM won't provide any default values. Compulsory we have to perform initialization explicitly, whether we are using that instance variable or not. Sir, just I declared, that's all. Final int x. Can you tell if the code is going to compile or not? Code won't compile. Compiler will give left and right. If the instance variable declared as the final, then compiler compulsory we should perform initialization explicitly whether we are using or not using, otherwise the code won't compile. Are you getting? Now do you know what compile time error by default we are going to get? Variable x might not have been initialized. This is the compile time error by default we are going to get. Sir, if the instance variable is not final, then JVM will provide default value. But if the instance variable is the final, JVM won't provide default values. Compulsory we have to perform initialization explicitly. Is it clear, right? So what is the output by default we are going to get? In this case is nothing but compile time error first we are going to get. Clear, right? Now let me show this one. Very important point. Make sure normal instance variable, final instance variable, there is a difference is there. Okay, just let me take a class test. Now here just observe, sir, int x, that's all. Sir, my instance variable is not final. Have you observed? Instance variable is not final. Now let me save this code as a test.java. Okay, now here just observe this one. Okay, instance variable is not final. Okay, int x. Now Java say test.java. The code compiles fine, no problem at all. Now if the instance variable declared as the final, sir, whether we are using or not using, compulsory we have to perform initialization explicitly. Do you know compile time error we are ready to get variable x might not have been initialized. Are you getting? Variable x might not have been initialized. This is the compile time error by default we are going to get. Any explanation is required now? Okay, at this point. Yeah. If the instance variable declared as a final, then compulsory we have to perform. Initialization explicitly. Whether we are using or not. And JVM won't provide default values. And JVM won't provide default values. Okay, take this example. Class test final int x. Class test final int x. Do you know compile time error? Variable x might not have been initialized. Is the compile time error by default we are going to get. Variable x might not have been initialized, like completed, right? Might not have been initialized, like compile time error we are going to get. I hope terminology is very clear for you people, right? Next, here see, sir, where we have to perform initialization for final instance variable. Sir, is there any rule or is there any place? Yes, boss. There is a clear rule is there. For final instance variable, compulsory we should perform initialization before constructor completion. For final instance variable, compulsory we should perform initialization before constructor completion. Are you getting that? Okay, this is. So, sir, before constructor completion means what are various possibilities? I will spell out. So, what is the rule? Can I spell out? So, for final instance variable, compulsory we have to perform initialization before constructor completion. Okay, add rule. For final instance variables, compulsory we should perform initialization compulsory we should perform initialization, compulsory we should perform initialization before constructor completion, compulsory we should perform initialization before constructor completion, before constructor completion, otherwise before constructor completion, that's all, before constructor completion. Sir, that is, what are various places for that? Sir, here legend this one. First place, that is the following are various places. Legend this one. First place, sir, at the time of declaration, at the time of declaration is the first one. Legend this one. Sir, class test. Here final int x is equal to 10. Do you know 100% pakka it is a valid, because have you remembered in the instance control flow, I will discuss in the OOPS concept anyway, identification of instance members, execution of instance variable assignments and instance blocks, and then constructor. That's why instance variable assignment will be happen before constructor completion only. That's why, so this one is nothing but acceptable. One option at the time of declaration. Second one inside instance block. Sir, instance block when it will be executed, before constructor or after constructor? Before constructor. First instance block and then constructor. That's why here, do you know, so what is the option? Class test final int x, class test final int x, curly brace open, x is equal to 10, curly brace open, x is equal to 10 inside instance block. Now the third one, have you observed? Inside constructor. Okay, like, sir, have you observed what is the rule? Can you please read? For final instance variables, compulsory we should perform initialization before constructor completion. So within the constructor also we can do that. Before constructor completion, compulsory final instance variable should have the value. Now inside constructor, what is the option is class test. Okay, final int x test the constructor, within that I am taking x is equal to 10. Are you getting? Is it valid or not? Yes, sir, these are the only possible places to perform initialization for final instance variable. If we are trying to initialize anywhere else, immediately compile error by default we are going to get. Observe the difference, right? Okay, these are the only possible places where we can perform initialization for final instance variable. If I am trying to perform initialization anywhere else, compile error, right? Okay, add that is the following are various places. The following are various places for, that is the following are various places for initialization. The following are various places for initialization. Okay, take all these things. First one, at the time of declaration. Second one, inside instance block. At the time of declaration, second, inside instance block. Third one, inside constructor. Inside instance block. Third one, inside constructor. Are you getting the point, right? So at the time of declaration, inside instance block, inside constructor, like, okay, take clearly. So make sure you people should have clear idea. Inside instance block, inside constructor. These are the only possible places to perform initialization for final instance variables. Completed, right? So make sure you people should aware clearly. Here the theory. These are the only possible places. These are the only possible places. These are the only possible places to perform initialization. To perform initialization. These are the only possible places to perform initialization for final instance variables. These are the only possible places to perform initialization for final instance variables. For final instance variables. If we are trying to perform initialization, anywhere else, if we are trying to perform initialization anywhere else, if we are trying to perform initialization anywhere else, then we will get compile time error. Then we will get compile time error. We will get compile time error. Okay. Here see. Sir, I am taking class test. Sir, I have final int x. And are getting class test of final int x. Now I am taking, here see, public void m1. Within that x is equal to 10 I am taking. Sir, have you observed? So within a method I am taking. Sir, method will be executed always after constructor, because after constructor completion, and then by using object you can call a method. Is nothing but like. Sir, is it the place, is it allowed place to perform initialization for final instance variable? No. Immediately compile time error by default we are going to get saying what that error is variable x. Variable x. Okay, here 1 minute. Here the compile time error by default we are going to get saying cannot assign a value, to final variable x. Cannot assign a value to final variable x. Is nothing but like compile time error by default we are going to get. Are you able to understand that? Okay, this is. Let me show all these things so that you can aware. Here see, observe this one. Sir, final int x. Legend this one. Final int x. Can you tell, is it valid or invalid? Invalid. Final int x. Invalid because variable x might not have been initialized. Like compile time error we are getting. Compulsory we should perform initialization, right? Sir, at the time of declaration I am performing. Valid or invalid? At the time of declaration, perfectly valid. No problem at all. Sir, I am taking final int x. Final int x, curly brace open, x is equal to 10 like this. Sir, what is this block? Instance block. Valid or not? Valid. Perfectly. No problem at all. Okay, valid. Now, so here I am taking test constructor. What is this part? Constructor. Is it valid or not? Yes. No issue at all. Valid. No problem. Now I am taking, instead of this, public void m1 method. Sir, inside a method, is it possible to perform initialization? No. Immediately compile time error we are going to get. Have you observed? What is that error is? Can you please read? Cannot assign a value to final variable x. Itself is nothing but compile time error by default we are going to get. Clear for all of you, right? So for final instance variable, to perform initialization, these are the only possibilities. If we are trying to perform initialization anywhere else, compile time error by default we are going to get. Okay, take this part. Example, class test final int x. Final int x, public void m1, within that x is equal to 10. Cannot assign a value to final variable x. Cannot assign a value to final variable x. I hope clear for all of you, right? Final instance variables. Final instance variables like. Now the terminology is very clear for you. Okay, first one. Now the second one add. Okay, I hope is clear. Next keep subheading final static variables. Final static variables. Final static variables. Second category, final static variables. So first you people should aware what is static variable, and then if the static variable declared at the final, what will happen? First, what is the static variable like? Sir, here just observe, I have one class student is there. Sir, I have one class student class is there. For every student, compulsory name must be there. Correct or not? Compulsory name should be there. For every student, compulsory roll number should be there. Compulsory name should be there, roll number should be there. Sir, for every student, compulsory college name also there. String college name. Analogy. So, how many instance variables are there? 3 instance variables are there. Now, I want to create first student object, second student object, first one, second one, dot, 600 the student object I am taking. First one, second one, dot, 600. Now observe carefully. Sir, name, here, name, and for every student, name, roll number, college name. Compulsory 3 fields are there because instance variable. Name, roll number, and then what? College name. So, name, roll number, college name, like we have. Sir, here, name, Durga, roll number 101, college name is nothing but Durga Soft. Assume that Durga Soft. Name, Ravi, roll number 102, and college name, Durga Soft. Okay. Last one, name, some Shiva, roll number 600, college name, Durga Soft. Are you getting? College name is nothing but Durga Soft, like we did. If you observe, the values of name and roll number varied from object to object. So that's why, okay, well, here separate copy. But the value of college name is the same for all students, or within the same school for all 600, within the same college for all 600 students having the same college name only. If the value of a variable is not varied from object to object, sir, for all 600 students, college name is the Durga Soft only. If the value of a variable is not varied from object to object, such type of variable never recommended to declare as instance variable, because unnecessary memory based performance is going to be down. Because the reason is, how many times Durga Soft we require to create? 600 times. Are you getting? Here one time, here one time, here one time. Because for every object we require to create a separate copy. Then how many times Durga Soft is required to create is nothing but what? 600 times. That's why if the value of a variable is not varied from object to object, never recommended to declare that variable as instance variable. Like, okay, this is clear. Such a type of variables we have to declare at a class level. Such a type of variables we have to declare at class level by using static modifier, right? Then immediately you ask, sir, if a variable declared as a static, what will happen? What is the advantage we are going to get, right? Simple. If it is a static, at a class level, only one copy will be created. College name is equal to Durga Soft. Only one copy, and share this copy for every object of the class. And share this copy for every object of the class. I hope is it clear for all of you? If the value of a variable not varied from object to object. Never recommended to declare that variable as instance variable. We have to declare such type of variables at class level by using which modifier, Anna? Static modifier, right? Any explanation is required about this one? So make sure you people should have clear clarity. Are you getting? Sir, can you tell basic difference between instance variable and static variable? What is the basic difference? Instance variable, object level variable. For every object, separate copy will be there. Static variable, class level variable. So how many copies of static variables are there? Only one copy at class level, shared by every object of that class. Clear for all of you, right? Okay, add up to this. If the value of a variable, if the value of a variable is not varied from, if the value of a variable is not varied from, varied from object to object, if the value of a variable is not varied from object to object, not varied from object to object, not varied from object to object, such type of variables are not recommended to declare. Such type of variables are not recommended to declare as instance variables. Such type of variables are not recommended to declare as instance variables. Such type of variables are not recommended to declare as instance variables. We have to declare those variables at class level. We have to declare those variables at class level. By using, we have to declare those variables at class level by using static modifier. We have to declare those variables at class level by using static modifier. By using static modifier. Okay, like, are you able to understand? Okay, this is, we should declare such a type of variables at class level by using static modifier. Sir, instance variable, static variable. Can you tell what is the basic difference? Instance variable, for every object a separate copy will be created. Static variable, for total class only one copy will be created and shared by every object of that class. Clear? Okay, add second point. Second, in the case of instance variables, for every object a separate copy will be created. In the case of instance variables, for every object a separate copy will be created. A separate copy will be created. A separate copy will be created. But in the case of static variables, a single copy will be created at class level. A single copy will be created at class level. And shared by every object of that class. Every object of that class. That's all. Are you getting the basic idea what is static variable, right? Now the next thing here, see, sir, I am taking one static variable, class test, static int x. Sir, one static variable, I am taking static int x. Public static void main, string array args. Directly I am taking system.out.println of x, SOP of x. Can you tell what the answer? What the answer we are going to get? Static int x, SOP of x. What the answer? Make sure 0. Because for static variable, JVM will always provide what? Default values. we are not required to perform initialization explicitly, right? Are you able to understand? We are not required to perform initialization explicitly. JVM will always provide what? Default value. But if the static variable is final, what is the behavior? That part we will discuss first at this point. For static variables, it is not required to perform initialization. For static variables, it is not required to perform initialization. It is not required. For static variables, it is not required to perform initialization explicitly. It is not required to perform initialization explicitly. JVM will always provide default values. 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 Okay, take this example. Class test static int x. Take clearly. Public static void main string array args SOP of x. String array args SOP of x. Okay, the output by default we are going to get 0. SOP of x. The output itself is 0 like. Can I complete it, right? Okay, that's all. So this is one thing what you should aware. Sir, if the static variable declared at the final, what will happen? Can you tell JVM will provide default value or not? Array? If the static variable declared at the final, JVM will provide default value? No. Whether we are using or not, compulsory we should perform initialization explicitly. If I am not performing initialization, compile time error by default we are going to get. Okay, best here let me take. Sir, class test final static int x. Final static int x. 1 minute. Here some people may have the doubt. Is it final static or static final? Make sure anything is acceptable, because in Java order of modifiers is not at all important. Final static, static final, any word you can take. Public static void main, public static or static public, no problem at all. Order of modifiers is not at all important. Now, so final static like this. Can you tell either code is going to compile or not? No. Because if the static variable is the final, compulsory we have to perform initialization explicitly whether we are using or not. Otherwise, compile time error by default we are going to get. Sir, what is that error is? Here see, variable x, you are not performing initialization. That's why variable x might not have been initialized. This is the compile time error by default we are going to get. Are getting the point, right? Okay, get this point. If the static variable declared as a final, then compulsory we should perform initialization. Explicitly. Compulsory we should perform initialization explicitly. Otherwise we will get compile time error. And JVM won't provide any default values. Okay, take this example. Class test final static int x. So we are going to get compile time error saying variable x might not have been initialized. Variable x might not have been initialized. Might not have been initialized. Like comparative method we are getting. Might not have been initialized. Completed, right? Okay. Sir, is there any rule, Anna? Is there any rule to perform initialization for final static variable? Yes, boss. There is a rule here. If it is the final instance variable, what is the rule? Before constructor completion, we should perform initialization. If it is the final static variable, what is the rule? Before class loading completion. Are you getting? Before class loading completion, compulsory we should perform initialization, right, sir? Before class loading, before class loading completion, compulsory we should perform initialization for final static variables. Are you getting? Sir, before class loading completion means what places are there, or what are various allowed places? Okay, add rule. Better to take a rule for final static variables. For final static variables, compulsory we should perform initialization. For final static variables, compulsory we should perform initialization. For final static variables, compulsory we should perform initialization. Before, compulsory we should perform initialization before class loading completion. Before class loading completion. Before class loading completion. Before class loading completion. Okay, that is now, that is the following are various places for this. The following are various places for this. Do you know first place, Anna? Listen, at the time of declaration. Sir, first place at the time of declaration. Now observe class test. I am taking class test. Okay, here final static int x is equal to 10. Sir, acceptable, no problem at all. At the time of declaration, so static variable assignment will be performed at the time of class loading only, before main method. Have you remembered? Next, second, inside. What is the second possibility? Inside static block. So do you know when the static block will be executed? At the time of class loading. That's why before class loading completion is nothing but inside static block. Now have you observed class test? Now final static int x. Final static int x. So static block, static x is equal to 10. Are you getting? So that's all. These are the only possible places to perform initialization for final static variable. If we are performing initialization anywhere else, comparative method we are going to get. Okay, this is first add. That is the following are various places for this. Okay, add first one. At the time of declaration. At the time of declaration. Second one, inside static block. At the time of declaration, second, inside static block. At the time of declaration, second, inside static block. Inside static block. Okay, take both examples. I hope clear, right? Okay, now here observe. Sir, these are only possible places to perform initialization for final static variable. If we are trying to perform initialization anywhere else, compile time error we are going to get. Best example, here say this one, class test, sir, final static int x, final static int x. I am trying to perform initialization inside a method. Sir, public void m1, within that x is equal to 10 I am taking. X is equal to 10 I am taking. Immediately, compile time error we are going to get. Do you know what that error is? Cannot assign a value, to final variable x. Cannot assign a value to final variable x. Like compile time error we are going to get. Are you able to understand that? Okay, at this point, at the point, these are the only possible places. These are the only possible places. These are the only possible places to perform initialization. These are the only possible places to perform initialization. For final static variables. These are the only possible places to perform initialization for final static variables. Variables. If we are trying to perform initialization anywhere else, then we will get compile time error. We will get compile time error. Okay, take this example. Class test final static int x. Final static int x. Next, a public void m1. Within that x is equal to 10. Public void m1. Within that x is equal to 10. So we are going to get compile time error saying cannot assign a value to final variable x. Cannot assign a value to final variable x. Cannot assign a value to final variable x. Like this we are getting compile time error, right? Are you getting? So up to this whatever we covered, let me execute. Here see, completed, right? So next, here see this one. Sir, you have to tell, so which are valid, which are invalid. Sir, I am taking static int x, that's all. Valid or invalid? Valid or invalid? Valid, because normal static variable JVM will provide default value. Okay, valid. Sir, final static int x. Valid or invalid? Invalid, because if the static variable declared at the final, compulsory we should perform initialization, right? Have you observed? So variable x might not have been initialized. This is the compile time error by default we are getting. Okay, like, sir, now final static int x is equal to 10. Valid or not? Because at the time of declaration, happily we can perform initialization, no problem at all. Valid. Final static int x within the static block, within that x is equal to 10, like this I am taking. Valid or not? Yes, inside static block we can do. Sir, I am taking, so this method is public static void m1, within that I am taking x is equal to 10. Valid or invalid? Invalid, because inside a method you can't. Have you observed? Cannot assign a value to final variable x. Are you able to understand? This is the behavior of final static variables, right? Not required to keep any explanation, right? Okay. Next, keep submitting. Third one, final local variables. 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 Sir, here see, Observe carefully about this one. Final local variables. Sir, if a local variable, so which are local variables, Anna? The variables which are declared inside a method public void m1. I'm taking the variable inside a method. Inside a method is the local variable. Or sometimes we can declare the variable inside a constructor. It is also local to that constructor. Or sometimes the variable which is declared inside a block, int x is equal to 10, local to that block. Are you getting? Are the variables inside declared inside a for loop? It is also one block only. This one is nothing but related to for. The variables which are declared inside a method or inside a block or inside constructor, such type of variables are called local variables, right? Can I use the term local variables are temporary variables or not? Yes, because within the for loop I require one variable. Once a for loop got completed, I don't want this one. Temporary, just for loop, I required int I. Sir, just to execute static block, x is required. Just while executing m1 method, x is required. Or just while executing constructor, x is required. After completing constructor, I don't want to use x anywhere. Such a type of temporary variables are local variables, right? Are you able to understand? So the variables which are declared inside a method or inside a block or inside a constructor to meet the temporary requirements of the programmer, such a type of variables are called local variables. Or I can use the term temporary variables. Correct or not? Local variable, temporary variable, or stack variables. Do you know in which memory area these variables are going to be stored? Inside stack memory. Local variables are always going to be stored inside stack. Stack variables are is nothing but automatic variables also. Automatic, because sometimes available. Once we complete method, not available. Within the for loop, I is there. Once a for loop is going to complete, I won't be there. Is nothing but these type of variables are by default considered local variables or temporary variables or other words, right? Are you able to get basic idea what is a local variable, right? Temporary data which is required to the programmer. Okay, sometimes to meet temporary requirements of the programmer, sometimes to meet temporary requirements of the programmer, sometimes to meet temporary requirements of the programmer, to meet temporary requirements of the programmer, we have to declare variables, we have to declare variables inside a method. We have to declare variables inside a method or block. We have to declare variables inside a method or block or constructor. We have to declare variables inside a method or block or constructor. Such type of variables are called local variables. Local variables. Such type of variables are called local variables or temporary variables. Local variables are temporary variables or stack variables. Temporary variables are stack variables or automatic variables or automatic variables. Okay, so what is local variable? Now I hope you people got clarity. But here, do you know local variable is a temporary data. Instance variable and static variable standard data. Instance variable is always part of object. Static variable is always part of class. But local variable is the temporary. That's why for standard data like instance variable, static variable, JVM will always provide default values. But for temporary data. Which is the temporary data? Local variable. JVM won't provide any default values. Are you getting? Compulsory, we have to perform initialization explicitly for local variable, right? Are you getting the point? Sir, JVM won't provide any default values. Compulsory, we should perform initialization explicitly for local variable. It's a even it's not final. Not final. JVM won't provide any default values, right? Add. For local variables, next point. For local variables, JVM won't provide. For local variables, JVM won't provide any default values. For local variables, JVM won't provide any default values. Local variables, JVM won't provide any default values. Compulsory, we should perform initialization. Compulsory, we should perform initialization. Compulsory, we should perform initialization explicitly. Compulsory, we should perform initialization explicitly. Compulsory, we should perform initialization explicitly. Explicitly, we should perform initialization explicitly. Explicitly. Okay, are you getting? Don't keep full stop, just listen. Sir, I am taking class test. Oh, listen well, very carefully. Class test. Okay. Public static void main method. String array args. Sir, main method string array args. Int x. Sir, what is this variable? Int x. What is this variable? Local variable. Now I am taking system.out.println hello like I am taking. Sir, can you tell if the code compiles? No, because for local variable, compulsory we should perform initialization explicitly. Am I performing initialization explicitly? No. Then the code is going to compile or not? Yes, because we are not using that local variable. Are you getting? If I am not using, not required to perform initialization. Because I am not using, that's why, do you know what is the output by default we are going to get is nothing but hello. Are you getting? Valid, right? Sir, I am taking class test. Public static void main string array args. Public static void main string array args. Now, here observe, int x system.out.println of SOP of. So, x I am taking. SOP of x. Sir, is it valid or invalid? Is it valid or invalid? Remember, compiler will give left and right like anything. Array, you declare a local variable. You are trying to print x value. Which x value I have to print? Where is the value? JVM won't provide default value. Even you didn't provide any value. Then which value I have to print? Before using, compulsory we should perform initialization for local variables, right? So, what compile time error we are going to get? Same cinema variable x might not have been initialized. Variable x might not have been initialized. Okay, sir. So, have you observed? For local variable, JVM won't provide any default values. Compulsory we should perform initialization explicitly before using that local variable. Are you getting? Can you please read once again our point? For local variable, JVM won't provide any default values. Compulsory we should perform initialization explicitly. Add continue. Before using that local variable. 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 That is, if we are not using, then if we are not using, then it is not required. That is, if we are not using, then it's not required. It is not required. Then it's not required. It is not required to perform initialization for local variable. It is not required to perform initialization for local variable. Not required to perform initialization for local variable. not required to perform initialization for local variable. Okay, like take this example and take both examples. I will execute and I will confirm anyway. Class test public static void main string array args int x SOP of hello. So the output we are going to get is hello. We are going to get saying compile time error. Variable x might not have been initialized. Clear, right? Variable x might not have been initialized. Like a compile time error we are going to get. Can I complete it right? First one is the valid. Second one compile time error, right? Take. I hope is clear. Now let me execute and let me show this one. Okay, here just observe. Sir, I am taking class test. Okay, within the int x, that's all. Can I use the term, is it a local variable or not? Yes. Okay, now I am trying to print hello. Now let me go for, let me save this code as a test.java. Okay, valid or invalid? This one is the valid or not? Valid, no problem at all. Now java c test.java. Valid? Yes, the code compiles fine. Yes, java test. What the answer is? Hello is the answer by default we are getting. Are getting? Now what I want to do, SOP of x. Sir, I'm using. But you didn't perform initialization. Then now you can use like compile time error we are going to get saying variable x might not have been initialized. Are getting? Variable x might not have been initialized, like compile time error we are going to get. Any explanation is required. But now take a very special care about this one. Sir, here before using for local variable, compulsory we have to perform initialization, right? Okay, if we are not performing initialization, compile time error we are going to get. Now take very special care. Can you tell what about this example? Now very important, very care you require to take here. Say class test public static void main. Sir, I am taking final int x. Sir, local variable is the final. System.out.println of hello, like I am taking. Valid or invalid? Hey, local variable is the final. If the instance variable, static variables are final, whether we are using or not using, compulsory we should perform initialization explicitly. Sir, final. Can you tell what is the output by default we will get? Hello is the answer, right? Compile time error. Don't think too much. What the answer we are going to get? Hello or compile time error? Hello or compile time error? Make sure 100% pakka the output is hello. Even though local variable is the final. Before using only we have to perform initialization. If we are not using, sir, I am not using, they are not required to perform initialization even though it is the final. Are getting? Now observe this one. Sir, I am taking final int x and the SOP of hello take care is nothing but something like hello take care is like I am taking. Even though local variable is the final no problem at all. Happily the code compiles fine. Have you observed? And runs fine. Hello take care, like. Are you getting the point? So even though local variable is the final, okay, before using only we have to perform initialization. If we are not using, not required to perform initialization, right? Clear for all of you, right? Okay, add. Even though local variable is final, even though local variable is final, local variable is final, local variable is final, before using only, before using only, we have to perform initialization. Before using only, we have to perform initialization. Before using only, we have to perform initialization. We have to perform initialization. If we are, that is, if we are not using, then it is not required. Then it is not required to perform initialization. Then it is not required to perform initialization. Not required to perform initialization. Even though it is final. 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 That's all. Are you getting the point, right? Okay. Take this example. Class test. Public static void main. Final int x SOP of hello. Final int x SOP of hello. Final int x SOP of hello. Completed, I hope. So the output we are going to get is nothing but hello. That's all. I hope terminology is very clear. Sir, what is the behavior of final static, final instance and a final local variable? Now the terminology is clear, right? Now there is one very important twist. Let me explain. Based on that, another few minutes I will continue here. Just observe. See this one. Sir, I am taking class test. Now legend, take very special care. Class test. Sir, now here I am taking int x. Can you tell what is this variable? Instance variable. Sir, I am taking static int y. What is this variable? Static variable. Public static void main method. String array args. Public static void main string array. Int z is equal to 30. Like I am taking. What is this variable? Local variable, right? Sir, instance variable, static variable. What is the last one? Local variable, right? Sir, if the instance variable declared as the public, instance variable declared as the public, can you tell where we can access this variable? From anywhere. We covered in the last class. If a variable declared as the public, anywhere you can access. If instance variable is the default, where we can access? Within the package only. If the instance variable is the private, within the class only. If the instance variable is the protected, we can access within the current package anywhere, but outside package only in child classes, right? Okay, like it's a clear. Same thing, why don't you apply for static variables also? Sir, I am declaring a static variable as the public, anywhere you can access. Default within the current package. Private within the current class. Protected within the current package anywhere, but outside package only in child classes, right? Based on access modifier, now the corresponding access by default is applicable. Okay, meaningful. Sir, but what about this local variable? Local variable can be accessed only within the block or within the method. Sir, you can access only within this method. Outside of this method you can't access. Now I want to declare local variable as the public. Are you getting? I want to declare local variable as the public. Can you tell, can I access now local variable from anywhere? No, because local variable scope is already fixed. If the local variable scope already fixed, public, private, protected, default, such type of terminology not applicable for local variable. By mistake, If I'm trying to declare with public, private, protected, like immediately compile-time error we are going to get. Are you getting right? The only applicable modifier for local variable is final. The only applicable modifier for local variable is final. By mistake, if you are using any other, immediately compile-time error you are going to get. Make sure. But so can I declare local variable as a static? Compile-time error. Can I declare local variable as a private? Compile-time error. The only applicable modifier so is a final. So if you want, you can apply. By default it's not final. Remember this one. Some people may feel by default every local variable is the final. No. If you want, you can apply final. The only applicable modifier for local variable is final. If you are trying to apply any other, compile-time error we will get. Clear for all of you, right? Okay, at this point. The only applicable modifier for local variable is the only applicable modifier for local variable is final. The only applicable modifier for local variable is final. By mistake, if we are trying to apply any other modifier, then we will get compile time error. Okay, just observe the example. Sir, here class test public static void main method string array args. Public static void main string array args. Now observe, I am taking public int x is equal to 10. Public int x is equal to 10. Private int x is equal to 10. Protected int x is equal to 10. Okay, protected int x is equal to 10. Sir, static int x is equal to 10. Transient int x is equal to 10. Transient int x is equal to 10. Volatile int x is equal to 10. Volatile int x is equal to 10. Sir, in all these cases, we are going to get compile-time error saying illegal start of expression. Illegal start of expression. This is the compile-time error by default we will get. Sir, if I am taking final int x is equal to 10, can you tell is it valid or not? This line itself is nothing but valid, no problem at all. Are you getting? Okay, take this example now. Make sure the only applicable modifier for local variable is final. If you are trying to apply any other modifier, immediately compile-time error we are going to get. What that compile-time error also clear? Illegal start of expression. Illegal start of expression like completed, right? I hope is clear for all of you, right? Public int x is equal to 10. Private int x is equal to 10. Protected int x is equal to 10 like. Okay. I hope terminology is very clear for you. Volatile int x is equal to 10 like. Now, so we will get comparative method saying illegal start of expression. Like, any explanation is required? Okay. Now here, do you know there are two things still you people should aware. Sir, here legend this point well. We have to we require to consider a small note. That part I will explain. Few years before, a bit funny experience. So there with one of my student, one lady came. She's working for the company at that time. She's working real time working employee, right? And she came. She asked one question at the end of the session. She asked a small query, saying, "Sir, in my system, Java is not working properly." Like, so maybe sometimes class path problem is there, path problem is there. Like, we may have the problem. Then, madam, what problem you are getting? Like I asked. Then her answer is, "Sir, some programs are compiles and runs fine, proper output I'm getting, but some programs I'm not getting output, sir." Like, okay, I got shocked, because if the path problem, class path problem, no program should work. Then some programs are working properly, some programs are not working properly. Like, then okay, ma'am, can you please tell any program which is not working in your system? Like I told, sir, small program also not working, small program also not working. Like, then immediately, can you please write a small program which is not working in your system? Simple, sir. Sir, I'm taking a simple class test. Simple class test. Public static void main method I'm taking. Sir, a simple class test, public static void main. Just within that I'm taking, sir, yeah, a simple variable, public int x is equal to 10, SOP of x. Sir, this is small program also not working in my system, sir. Like, by seeing this code, first time I got the feeling to give left and right to that lady. But anyway, she is so working person, plus at this age giving left and right is not good. That's why, madam, the problem is not with the Java, the problem with your program. Like I told, anyone having the doubt? Ayo, at that time I didn't use, now at least I can use. Make sure why this code won't compile. Because the reason is local variable declared as public. Such type of terminology not applicable for local variable. Are you getting? The problem with the program, not problem with the Java. Okay, remember. Next, one more thing you should aware. I'm taking class test. Sir, I'm taking class test, and int x is equal to 10, int y is equal to 20. Int x is equal to 10, int y is equal to 20. Public static void main string array args. Sir, legend, public static void main string array args. Int z is equal to 30, and assume this variable is the static. Sir, if I'm not declaring any access modifier, then by default it is default. We can access this variable within the current package anywhere. Sir, if we are not declaring any access modifier, then by default it is default. Public is not there means default. Then we can access this variable within the current package anywhere. If I'm not declaring any access modifier, then by default it is remember that. Don't use the word sir, default. By default it is the default. If it is the default, within the current package anywhere you should access. But is it possible to access outside a main method? No. That's why make sure you people should have clarity, right? Okay, this is, sir, if I'm not declaring, if I'm not declaring anything, then by default it is a default. That the rule is applicable only for instance and static variable, but not for local variables, right? Add note. If we are not declaring any modifier, then by default it is a default. Then by default it is a default. default, default. But but this rule is applicable. But this rule is applicable. But this rule is applicable only for. But this rule is applicable only for. This rule is applicable only for instance and static variables. But this rule is applicable only for instance and static variables. Instance and static variables. Static variables, but not for local variables. But not for local variables. Instance and static variables, but not for local variables. That's all. But not for local variables like. Sir, now observe. So the only allowed modifier for local variable is final. You know, right? Okay, this is. But here, so one small thing we have to I have to explain here. Take a bit special care. Sir, formal parameters of a method. Listen this one. Sir, I am taking class test. I am taking class test class. Public static void main method. String array args. Public static void main string array args. Sir, I am calling M1 method bypassing 10, 20 as argument. I am calling M1 bypassing 10, 20. Public static void M1 method. Public static void M1 of int x comma int y. Int x comma int y. X is equal to 100. Y is equal to 200. I can reassign system.out.println x dot y I am taking. Here see, observe, this is my program. Do you know int x and int y, these things are by default considered formal parameters. Correct or not? Oi, formal parameters of a method, actual parameters, formal parameters like we may have somewhere. These things are by default considered as what? Formal parameters, right? These values whatever we are passing, these things are by default considered as what? Actual parameters or actual values or arguments, actual values parameters like. Sir, now formal parameters of a method simply acts as local variables of that method. Sir, where you can access x and y? Only inside M1. Outside of M1, is it possible to access? No. Formal parameters of a method simply acts as local variables of that method. Now my question is, sir, can you tell what is the output I will get? Sir, 10, 20 we are sending. X is the 10, y is the 20. But within this method, x value will become 100, 200, 10 followed by 20 is the answer. Are you getting? Formal parameters of a method simply acts as local variables of that method. Correct. But now my question is, take very special care. Int x comma int y, formal parameters, right? If it is the local variable, can I declare local variable as final or not? Possible or not? Yes, boss. If a formal parameter declared the final within the method, we can't perform reassignment. Sir, this 10 is the final. You can't perform what? Reassignment. By mistake, if you are trying to perform reassignment, compile time error saying cannot assign a value to final variable x. Cannot assign a value to final variable x. Like compile time error we are going to get. So my question is, formal parameters of a method simply acts as local variables of that method. If a formal parameter, hence formal parameter can be declared as the final. If a formal parameter declared the final within the method, we can't perform what? Reassignment, right? Now maybe a chance to ask, consider the following code. First option, there is no compile time error. Second option, compile time error because formal parameter cannot be declared as the final. Third option, compile time error because within the method we can't perform reassignment for x. Okay. Fourth one is nothing but no compile time, no runtime error. Like, can you tell what the answer? We are getting compile time error because what the reason? Within the method we can't perform reassignment for that final. It doesn't mean, sir, you can't declare formal parameter as the final. Happily we can declare this one as the final, no problem. But reassignment we can't do that. Okay, at this point, keep submitting. Formal parameters of your method. Formal parameters. That's all. Keep submitting. Formal parameters. Under that add formal parameters of your method. Formal parameters of your method simply acts as formal parameters of your method simply acts as local variables of that method. Formal parameters of your method simply acts as local variables of that method. Hence formal parameter can be declared as final. Formal parameter can be declared as final. Hence a formal parameter can be declared as final. Next up, if a formal parameter declared as a final, formal parameter declared as a final, within the method, then within the method we can't perform reassignment. That's all. Are you able to understand? This is, make sure you should aware at these things. So take clearly. So actual parameters, formal parameters, and formal parameters of a method simply acts as local variables. So we can declare formal parameter as a final, but within the method we can't perform reassignment, right? That's all. Make sure you people should aware. That's it. This is about final variables, final instance variable, final static variable, final local variable, and the final variables is nothing but this much story is there for final variables, right? Okay, that's all.